Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your favorite show, Education Exchange, and I have two of my favorite people in the world, Dr. Steve Murley and Dr. Ann Feldman.
Thank you, Hani.
You are familiar with the audience, and the audience are familiar with you, but officially we have to introduce you. Dr. Murley, who are you?
And I'm the Superintendent of Schools for the Iowa City Community School District.
And Dr. Feldman?
I'm Ann Feldman. I'm Assistant Superintendent of the school district.
We are honored to have both of you tonight. This is actually, it was my dream to get leadership around the same table and listen from both of you at the same time. Steve, since you came here, you stirred a huge movement among the public. You get them to be involved in the process. You get them to be thinking about the process, criticize the process. But this open door policy that you have adopted allowed us, people like me and all the parents in the district, to be able to talk to you one-on-one. And that we have to give you credit for that, or extra credit. That's what you say in your classrooms, right?
Yes.
And Dr. Feldman, you have one of the builders of this system, you know, in this town, since you were with us and then you left us to rejuvenate Cedar Rapids. And then after you succeeded there, you came back to home, to your home here. So I'm really lucky to have both of you tonight.
Thank you, Hani.
And you, Dr. Murley, you were with me before here. I think it was in September.
Yes, late September.
Late September, and at the end of the show, you promised the audience that you would be back soon to update them with all the new development and to continue your transparency policy with the community.
Yes.
And 2 weeks ago, we had Dr. Hansel, who is the Chief Financial Officer of the district. He was with us here, and he made a wonderful presentation about the budget and the new projects and the vision, and explained to me and to other people all this difficult terminology. And one of the things that we talked about was the revenue purpose statement.
Yes.
As opposed to what we have used to call silo, or why did we, and we did ask Dr. Hansel about this, by the way. We told him, why did we change from this? And he explained the process, but I got two parents, as a matter of fact, who wanted to hear from you.
Sure.
Where is silo versus
SAVE?
Yeah. See.
The SAVE legislation actually authorizes the collection and distribution of the sales tax revenues, the 1 cent sales tax across the state through 2029. And what we are seeking from the voters as we move forward is consideration of a new revenue purpose statement that would authorize us to then allocate those funds through 2029. The board hasn't formally made this decision yet. That will happen at the next board meeting, which is next Tuesday. However, at that time, the intent will be to put forward a new revenue purpose statement for the voters to consider in February. And I think the thing that's most crucial to understand is that the district still retains those dollars from the state if a revenue purpose statement is not passed. However, our local school board loses control over how those dollars are spent. So the important thing for us to remember as a community is local control is one of the most important aspects of public education. We elect a local school board who represent the community and help make decisions that we as an administrative team then put into action on behalf of the students in the community. And so we want to make sure that the control of those dollars that come from the state as part of that sales tax, that 1 cent sales tax, are controlled by our local board, and that the decisions about how to allocate those dollars don't occur in Des Moines.
And when you emphasize the local control, but a lot of people during the last couple of weeks have heard through the debates and deliberations between the politicians, things like, we are going to appoint new teachers, we are going to open new teachers. That's a federal decision.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you compromise that? How can you explain that? Is it federal or local? I mean,
sure. And I think things that we're seeing on TV right now as part of the federal election campaign focus on distribution of dollars that came from the federal government through things like the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. It was hugely beneficial for us here in Iowa City. We were faced at that point in time with a shortfall in funding from the state government. We were able to use those dollars to keep teachers in classrooms. So those dollars that came from the federal government did help us maintain smaller class sizes by retaining staff. However, those were one-time dollars that came to us, spread out over a couple of years, and when that allocation was utilized, those dollars were no longer in place. The difference between that and what we're talking about here, the saved dollars that come from the state sales tax, the 1-cent sales tax rider, those are designed to come back to school districts throughout the state and are in place through 2029. They are not dependent on anything that happens with the federal government. It's strictly a state sales tax, revenue generated within the state, dollars stay within the state, allocated on a per pupil basis across the districts.
And borrowing ahead has its consequences.
Sure does.
And has some negative aspects of it.
Always does. When you borrow ahead, you have to pay interest. And one of the things that we're looking at is that interest cost being very low right now. Historically, one of the best times to borrow money is currently because of low interest rates.
Interest rate. Okay.
Low interest rates. Municipal bonds are very favorable right now. We also look at that and we juxtapose it with construction inflation. We know that it will cost more to build a building next year, the following year, the year after that, and certainly 5-10 years out in the future. And if that construction inflation is such that there's a significant gap between that and the cost of borrowing money, it actually allows us to build more today than we would if we waited. That's one of yes, there's a cost to it, as you said, but there's also significant benefit to us right now.
Thank you, Dr. Murley. No, the other doctor. We can operate now. We have 3 doctors around the table. So I know that you have extensive experience in secondary education, but we have a lot of questions about secondary education. And I'm looking at the camera now because Tammy is expecting, one of the audience asked me a question last night, and I promised her to put it to you too.
Wonderful.
About the conditions in secondary schools and junior high schools and some of the elementary schools. Especially, I think Tammy was asking me about the air conditioning. She actually have the highest regards to the leadership of our district. And she spoke about you, Steve, extensively about you and about other leaders there. She has been answered for all our questions. But in the meantime, she wanted to know now, with winter coming and the cold weather, is there any chance for the the air conditioning and the heating to be better in our children's school?
That's a great question, Tammy, out there. Certainly we've looked at the heating and cooling of our schools, and in August when school starts and into June when school ends, we can have some pretty hot days. So we are certainly looking at that, and certainly if the revenue purpose statement passes, that would allow us then to do the borrowing that Steve is talking about, and we can do those long-range plans on those very expensive projects. It costs a lot of money to retrofit schools. So that's something that we can start to dream about. Hani, we've been together a long time, and we've had some very, very warm days together. But it was always not an attainable dream because of the extensive cost of air conditioning. So I think we can start to dream about that with this new plan.
Especially when you have an old building already.
Absolutely.
And you have to do new infrastructure and construction and all that.
And I would be remiss if I didn't offer congratulations to our physical plant and our architects. We have, in the recent years, replaced all the windows at City High. They were custom-made windows, and so they provide, at least in the wintertime, a lot better conditions. We're in the process of doing that at West High as well.
Now, tell me what's in your trick and treat bag for the secondary education.
Well, we have lots of kids at the secondary level, just as we do at the elementary level. We have modular classrooms where we have kids learning in classrooms outside their buildings. We've heard a lot about crowding at West High, but we have crowding across the secondary schools. Some of the reasons for that, certainly we're growing. But we also have a lot of new programs, a lot of new initiatives going on for kids. So, for example, at City High, in the Fine Arts Wing, we're building a multi-million-dollar place for drama and orchestra and band and vocal spaces. While we're doing that, we're going to renovate an art classroom. We're going to renovate some special education classrooms. So we want to try to have the right spaces at the secondary level. So that increases the amount of space that we need. So that's on the wish list, to make our spaces 21st century with technology, to have the right number and the right kinds of spaces.
And I know that you were very let me see, supportive to the idea of kids at risk to have a very good place.
Absolutely.
And I remember working in an environment when we had the facility needed a lot of help. And you were really dreaming of a place with air conditioning. And they were among the maybe the first people in secondary education to have heating and air conditioning and computer were at Tate High.
Correct.
So thank you for this. Thank you very much. Now we shall proceed from there to ask you a very difficult question.
Okay.
That's not in the plan. We didn't talk about it, but you know, I am going to trick you now.
I would expect no less, Hani.
Now that in your vision, you're going to pull some teachers, good teachers, to mentor other teachers and give them directions and kind of, I know you use a different terminology, it's not mentoring, it's something else, right? The teacher that would be kind of, not administrator, but he will be supervising young teachers, novice teachers, giving them training and all. You will take this teacher, she or he, from the classroom where they can offer their best to sit with the other teachers. I know, theoretically speaking, well, then we have to extend this experience to other teachers so they would really benefit from the years of experience. But in the meantime, the main consumer, the kids, are going to lose this. How can you convince our audience if you look at the screen and tell them how this is going to work out?
Well, Hani, you raise a great point. To have our master teachers removed from working with kids is a struggle. And you have to weigh the big picture. How can we help our students learn and grow best from all their teachers? And so I think one solution is to take the very best teachers and help them teach other teachers, but do this on a temporary basis. To pull our master teachers out for a shorter period of time, a year, maybe 2 years, and then return them back to the classroom.
Oh, good. So it's not permanent. That's for a very short time to give their advices and guidance.
Yeah, I wouldn't advocate for pulling our very best teachers away from kids. We know that the research says that it's mostly about the quality of the teacher in the classroom. That's what increases achievement.
And class sizes are doing well now in secondary education?
I think I'll credit to Steve and as well to Becky Furlong, the other assistant superintendent, for working with us to really put resources into the classrooms.
And if I can give Ann a plug, because she won't do it herself, staffing at the secondary level is an incredibly complex process. At the elementary level, we look at kids in buildings and by grade level cohort. And not that that's not a difficult process, but when you get to the secondary level and you look at the number of departments we have, the number of courses inside the department, and the need to balance the pupil-teacher ratio across all those departments and all those classes within the department, it's a very complex process. We had our, our enrollment report at the last board meeting, our class size report rather, at the last board meeting, and at that meeting, Ann reported out on where we're at the secondary level. And given the fact that we've got space constraints, as she has already amply described, and also looking at the expansion that we continue to go through in our course catalog, there were only 4 areas in which we saw an increase in the pupil-teacher ratio across all of our secondary levels from last year to this year. The rest of them all saw a decrease. In some cases, the increases were actually attributed to decisions made at the building level when they sought additional staff and chose to allocate them in a way that they thought best met their students, which we give them the autonomy to do. Absent that, we would have had even fewer areas where there were increases in pupil-teacher ratios. And I think that speaks well to the collaboration both at the building level and between the building level and the district level administration, and Ann leads that effort.
And I like very much this kind of orchestration of duties that you have in the leadership, at the leadership level. We have the superintendent, and then we have 2 assistant superintendents, right? Mm-hmm. And we are going to have our most distinguished other assistant superintendent for sure, for herself, I promise you. Now, how did you come up with this formula? I see Dr. Feldman, for instance, is focusing on the secondary philosophy and the organization and coordination and all that, and Becky is doing the other, the elementary schools. How did you come up with this formula? Is it part of your vision, or?
I'd say we grew into it.
I think you're right.
Part of it was knowing where people's expertise lay and interests. And I would say that while you may look at Ann and Becky and see secondary and elementary, the other duties list is far longer.
Of course.
And there are many other things that they do that span a K-12 level. And I think that's one of the beauties of this process is while they may work in core curricular areas at the secondary or the elementary level, when they look at the other areas that they're working on, that's a K-12 initiative. And so it gives them the opportunity to stay grounded in both elementary as a secondary administrator and at the secondary level as an elementary administrator, in the sense that they see the continuity. So there isn't a break that separates all elementary from all secondary. But you find that in the core areas, you find that in things like staffing, but in other areas, at-risk education, special education, ELL, things like that that span our K-12 curriculum and our students, they both work across those areas, and so we work very closely together in that way.
Thank you. That makes great sense. Mm-hmm. And I see a lot of, like harmony between the 3 of you in planning and thinking. And now, Dr. Murley and Dr. Feldman, now I teach at Kirkwood, mm-hmm. and I used to teach at the district. And so I understand a lot about the importance of the community college role in relation to secondary education and education in general. And I know that you opened the door of cooperation and collaboration with Kirkwood. There will be a regional facility, I think. Mm-hmm. Can you give me some ideas about that?
I'll tell you a little bit about some of the big picture things, and Ann knows a great deal about some of the things that are going on at the ground level as they're working on that. Excuse me. We've worked with the university. The university's allocated land on the Oakdale campus. We've worked with the community college, and they passed a bond extension, not a new tax, but a replacement tax, much like we're talking about with our revenue purpose statement. And that authorizes them to build a building. And then we will have the opportunity to work collaboratively then with the university, Kirkwood Community College, and ourselves and other area school districts to provide students and staff that will be able to work collectively on programs that in many cases we're not able to offer on our campuses because we don't have the critical mass necessary to do so. Or if we do have the critical mass, they're courses that are expensive for us to run for perhaps a single section. But if being able to access students from other high schools and for the Kirkwood Community College to be able to offer them after hours to community members makes them more cost effective. So we've hit on a winning formula that allows us to expand the opportunities available to our students while they're still high school students. Hopefully give them opportunities to explore other careers, many of which can be attained through work at the community college here or through extension through the universities in the state, hopefully that are directly related to the needs that our state has from an employment standpoint. We hope that not only helps grow the state and local economy, but also helps create avenues of opportunity for our students at all levels, top to bottom, as they look to plan for their post-high school careers.
Thank you. That is extremely informative. You're going to add something?
Yes, I would, Hani. I would say we have been meeting once a month at least for a year now, and we have 3 more years of planning before the building actually opens. But one of the exciting things that we're doing, Hani, is we are planning for the programming without the building. That is, we are working with Kirkwood, with Clear Creek Amana, with Solon, with Tiffin, with Highland, with West Branch, to actually share programming, share courses at a central location, and we get to be that central location before the building opens. It's a wonderful idea. It's opened doors for us. For example, our high school students can sign up for ag courses at West Branch. They have a very intricate hydroponics, thank you.
What's that?
Program. It's agriculture with water technologies.
Oh.
So our students can go to West Branch if they have that opportunity. We are looking at what was once Roosevelt Elementary School. We are refurbishing it with new programs for not just at-risk kids, but we're looking to return some vocational programs to the building and offer that not just to City and West and Tate, but to all area schools.
Yeah, that was a present to the community.
It certainly was.
Really.
So those are some of the things that we're doing without the building.
I mean, it shows how big your heart is when you really listened. I mean, we had very little hope that Roosevelt will be back to our bosom. You know, we thought that it's gone already. The history, everybody was sad about that. Now you said, okay, here is Roosevelt even doing better job than ever, which is wonderful. Is there anything you want to add to this project?
I would say that we have partners as well as the university and Kirkwood Community College. Grantwood AEA is going to be very extensively involved in offering courses. The University of Iowa College of Education is talking about providing opportunities for pre-service teachers to come and learn about kids, to come and work with our kids on new and exciting ways to assess their learning.
That's crucial.
It's very much so.
That's crucial because I remember one of the main problems that we used to confront, especially at teaching at-risk kids, that novice teacher hasn't been to a classroom. They know a lot of theory, they read a lot, they can tell you about books in education, but the field experience was limited, and I think you are expanding that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And giving our teachers an opportunity to teach next to a university professor, and helping not just our students in K through 12, well, in 9 through 12, but our students at the university and at Kirkwood to learn what it is to be a teacher.
Yeah.
And I think I would just emphasize too, and Ann hit on this already, but I think it's important for the community to know that while the physical building won't be in place until 2015, in addition to the programs that Ann mentioned, we continue to explore other opportunities for our students to participate in Kirkwood academies, both on our campuses, our traditional campuses at City and West. We're also looking at Tate. Alternative High School is another campus where we can explore those career academies. Definitely. And given 3 years in front of us, I'm sure we'll have many more opportunities to expand that collaboration with Kirkwood Community College. And that really helps to soften for many kids that boundary between high school and post-secondary education. And for those kids that aren't sure that that's an avenue that they are prepared for or interested in, having the ability to participate in those programs at the high school level, we hope really for them sets their sights a little higher and challenges them and encourages them to go on and seek additional education after they've completed their time with us.
One of the parents in the district, Dr. Murley, called me again 2 days ago. They knew that we are going to meet again, and he wanted some more lights. Actually, he teaches in the university, and he teaches technology. And he was so excited about the STEM program. I gave him a brief idea about science and technology and engineering and all that. Can you expand on this and tell us first what's STEM? What does it stand for? We have about 2 minutes,
sure.
Something. Do you see we are developing? Right. We are.
I will be very brief, Ben.
Yeah.
You missed one. Science, technology, engineering, and math.
Right.
We see that as both instruction in the theoretical areas, but also the application pieces. You can see STEM in action right now in our schools in Project Lead the Way classes, very hands-on, very applied science. You can also see the growth in STEM. We have one of the regional hubs. There are 6 in the state. We have one here in our area. Very beneficial for us as our hub runs all the way down to Keokuk, so it's nice to have it close. We've got assistance from the university and Grantwood AEA with that process. We're looking at opportunities to work not only with kids in classrooms, but also through our after-school programs. Really help encourage kids to take a more active interest in those areas. We know that those are some of the fastest growing careers, both here locally and across the state. And so we're looking for those opportunities to expand our curriculum in those areas to meet those needs.
And who is the coordinator of this program?
Rebecca Whitaker was just hired to be the director of Region 6 Hub. And she was pleased to announce that several of our schools received grants to offer some STEM activities after school, like Lego League, Projects in Motion. Kirkwood, Lemmy, Longfellow, Grantwood were all schools that received grants for kids.
Well, we have been honored. I can continue for the whole evening, but I know that you have to run to North Liberty because you are interested to convince these people that they are essential for us here.
Yes.
And to defeat this rumor that we think away from North Liberty. Thank
all
you.
All part of one district.
Yeah. Dr. Murley, thank you very much. Dr. Feldman, thank you. This show is, of course, going to be on the Education Channel and on Public Access TV, as well as YouTube. And we are excited to have you again and again.
Thank you.
Maybe next time we'll get more parents to ask questions.
That would be great.
And thank you for addressing all the concerns of the parents that we received.
It's always an honor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hani.